What do you feel is the spirit behind it? What's the spirit behind it?
Let me first thank you and the UBC and all the media for giving all citizens an opportunity to debate the bill. The legislation has its origin. Cabinet has tabled this bill. It's a proposal. Now it is in the hands of Parliament. And I'm very pleased that uncharacteristically, the Parliament has opened up this bill to the public so that they hold what is called hearings.
Yes.
Now, people with opinions will go to Parliament and make an input. That in itself is an exercise of the sovereignty of the people. We recently had an election, which is the main exercise of sovereignty, actually. So in exercise of their sovereign powers, the people elected those who should manage the Ugandan state. That is an exercise of sovereignty of the people, the one you are talking about in Article 1. Now, when the Parliament debates and passes the bill, it will go to the President. The President will then assent to it.
Yes.
If he agrees with what Parliament has done, because by the time the bill goes to the President, it may not be in the current shape. It is presumed that it will be influenced by the opinions of those who are going before the committee. Now, when the bill becomes law, it can still be tested in the courts of law. You have seen cases where Parliament has passed laws, the President has assented to those laws, and then the courts simply throw out the laws and say, no, they do not pass the test. So these debates are healthy. Let's start from there, that this is a very, very healthy debate. To those who are not lawyers and those who are concerned citizens about what they consider extremes of this law, let me put the central question at the heart of this bill. How and to what extent may a democratic society protect itself against the inappropriate and manipulative influence of foreign actors? Inappropriate and manipulative. Inappropriate means it is not acceptable. You see, in human relations, we have what they call indecent gestures. I can shake the Honorable Sarah Opendi's hand. That is appropriate. If I touch her breasts, that's inappropriate. Now, that is what the Ugandan state or any state would say. Well, there are things you should not touch. There are areas you should not touch. So the debate should be about whether in the bill we are protecting those areas, or we are even denying anybody waving to the Honorable Sarah Opendi and say, no, you can't wave to me. That's inappropriate. That is what the debate should be. And then manipulative means I go to the Honorable Sarah Opendi and I say, do you know that Honorable Nandala is a witch? And suddenly the Honorable Nandala realizes that the Honorable Sarah Opendi is no longer free with him. Even when he tries to extend his hand, she's moving away very fast because I have manipulated her through misinformation. Now, in the era of technology, it's the duty of a state to do that. That's why you hear that some countries don't allow TikTok, for instance. Some countries, in Dubai, you cannot make a WhatsApp call, whereas in Uganda you can. In some countries, no Facebook. So the goal of any law that seeks to protect the sovereignty of a society is to push back against manipulative and inappropriate actions of foreign actors. Now, the foreign actors can exert their influence through Ugandans, whether individual Ugandans or corporate entities, organizations, and so on. So the debate should rather be, if it is our intention to be a democratic society, then nothing in the Protection of Sovereignty Bill should offend democracy. After all, our Constitution is explicit. It says we must only do those things that are acceptable and demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. The critics of the bill are saying there are aspects of the bill that will make Uganda a society which is not free and not democratic. Now, that's a question of evidence and a question of argument. Fortunately, this is something which is being done in other parts of the world. There are countries that are subtle in protecting their sovereignty. Somehow, Uganda, we are a country that believes that what you see is what you should get. So while other countries don't have an anti-homosexuality law, but they arrest homosexuals, imprison them, and torture them quietly, for us, we go to our parliament and say, anti-homosexuality law, and everybody is all over us like a rash. There are those who protect their sovereignty by basically spying on you. They may not even have any tough law, but if you are doing anything in their country, you notice that there is a lot of state presence all over you. Unlike in Uganda, which many visitors say, our country is really, really free. Now, those who believe that certain provisions on this law will undermine, or certain provisions of this law offend our commitment to building a democratic and free society, have now got the opportunity to prove that. I'm glad that many actors are dealing with the various aspects. The banks are dealing with the aspects of the banks. And of course, you yourself, you have brought in the main issue of saying, well, do you need to create another state structure, especially since we are doing rationalization. We are on a weight loss program as a government. So if we are committed to a weight loss program, we can achieve the objectives without necessarily creating additional layers and layers. But we have to admit that these threats that the Honorable Chris Baryomunsi has said are real. These threats are real. Unfortunately, in the world today, debates are driven by fear. These are the kind of debates that informed discussions on vaccines. When vaccines came, everybody was saying, no, we don't need them. even corona is fake news and so on and so forth. I want to insist that these threats are real, but as we defend ourselves against these threats, we should not undermine our commitment to building a free and democratic society and having an additional layer, especially in this age of information where computers and internet capabilities are weaponized to even undermine elections. In a way, it is like you asked Honorable Chris Baryomusi that you already have a wall fence. Why do you need burglar proof? Now, the Honorable Chris Baryomusi said, well, the wall fence is okay, but to sleep more comfortably, I think I need burglar proof also. Now, the burglar proofing should not be to such an extent that you basically burglar proof every aspect, so that even if you need to rush to the toilet, you take so many minutes to go through so many doors. Now, that is what the debate should be about. So, lastly, the Honorable Chris Baryomusi gave the context. Every state in Africa is grappling with two issues. Number one is what we call the national question. Uganda was not created by Ugandans. Actually, Uganda is not a sovereign concept. It is not the Bakiga and the Acholi and the Bagisu who drew the border. That in itself is the first evidence that our sovereignty has been under attack. Now, the national question means we must find a formula to live together harmoniously as Ugandans. So as we deal with the national question, we could face manipulation. For instance, you do remember that as we were making the 1962 Constitution, the Independence Constitution, the British decided to take sides. They exerted undue influence on the Kingdom of Buganda. They undermined the government that was led by Benedicto Kiwanuka. They manipulated the issues, for instance, of the so-called lost counties of Bunyoro, which led to disputes that eventually dismantled the very constitution we had built, because they decided to unduly influence people who were negotiating with other Ugandans. And then you ended up with districts like Acholi, Kigezi, Bugisu, territory of Busoga, kingdoms of Toro, Bunyoro, Buganda, and Ankole. Now, that manipulative influence has still got scars up to today. It has even affected land. They came here and imposed this Milo land through the 1900 agreement. Now, those are examples of manipulative influences. The second issue that African countries grapple with is decolonization. Now, to what extent is the Protection of Sovereignty Bill an act that supports our decolonization project? In other words, to say, if we are going to make mistakes, we must make them ourselves. We don't let somebody else make our mistakes for us. In fact, they are still all over us. When as a young member of parliament, we did go to Ministry of Finance, and we found a unit there called the Deregulation Unit, headed by a white man, permanently seated in the Ministry of Finance. He heads the whole unit, and his job is to ensure that foreigners are free to do as they wish in Uganda. So let us not debate this bill without tackling the fundamentals, how we deal with the national question and how we continue the decolonization project. Thank you.